Chapter 11. Pressure. Never apologize. Never explain. Get it over with and let them howl. Benjamin jowled out that the easy pickings are out of the way, you ahead. In any job have graver concerns worth having, serious people will inevitably put pressure on you. You should treat it as a compliment. How to react when under attack. People are used to you. You know what you need to do. You've worked hard on your affable vanilla character. You've pegged your office mates' operational styles, so you have an effective shorthand helping you breeze through the everyday scuffles as they crop up. You've figured out how to minimize cognitive dissonance, control information, and present yourself with expressive coherence. And it's working. Sure, you've slipped up a few times. A little fraud. A bribe or two. It's so easy. Disappeared some emails. Slipped Mrs. Jansen's lost ring in your pocket. But you are unburdened by care. This can be a weakness. You're becoming enmeshed in the office culture and developing a history. It can't be helped. While irritating, in order to make your manipulations successful, you need to take the long view and pay extra attention to planning. You're not a planner by nature, but one thing you must plan for is what to do when you get caught. Sooner or later someone is going to get wise to you. Two things can happen. 1. Someone will find out something shady that you did, or 2. They will develop the sense that you're hiding something. While they won't necessarily know you're hiding the fact that you are a sociopath, both of these problems will require heavier defense than your faux vanilla self. You don't even walk like a normal person, you glide like a fucking lizard on ice. It's all a fucking act and I ain't buying it. James Stokes, Dexter. True character. Robert McKee, seminar self-help guru for wannabe screenwriters, says true character is revealed in the choices a human being makes under pressure. The greater the pressure, the deeper the revelation, the truer the choice to the character's essential nature. If someone's putting the screw to you, it's time to let go of your vanilla character. He can't help you now. You need to have a heroic backstory ready to deploy to your boss when the chips are down. You need something a little flashier, a little more complicated, a character who can be forgiven for the newly discovered transgression.
The good news is people are suckers for certain kinds of character weaknesses. They love fatal flaws. They love redemption stories and vulnerability stories. Presidential candidate Ben Carson enjoyed a surge in ratings after he confessed to having attempted to stab a family member as a youth but later changed his ways, seeking God's grace and redemption. Nice screenplay. Of course, neither the seeking nor the stabbing, supposedly stopped by a belt buckle, were verified, but the story made people feel he was sympathetic and a badass. People eat up this kind of shit. In his case, Ben used a literal sin and a redemption by God type scenario to please evangelicals specifically, but this is not what I am promoting. This example is intended to illustrate how stories that admit a weakness, matched with an attempt to see it fixed, can elicit magnanimous and generous feelings. Craft a redemptive life story. Just make one up. It should relate to something you are most likely to get in trouble for, and you should keep it a secret until you are cornered and in need. A sympathy story is most powerful the first time it's told. Its key ingredient is shame. An amazing non-verbal example of this came from Victorian England. Poor women rented healthy babies to go beg with. The mother got a free babysitter and the beggar got an irresistible prop to go along with the immediately apparent redemption story. I am the most wretched among wretches, a poor single mother, but no matter my transgressions I will stop at nothing to care for this innocent lamb. Look how healthy she is compared to me. Give her a shilling. If a redemptive story seems just too phony for you to tell convincingly, other narratives can help shore up questionable behavior. Present yourself as an underdog who has faced down a tremendous challenge in your past, e.g., the gross jobs you had to do to put yourself through college, or about a time you fell short, but learned a lesson, e.g., I took a little change out of the till, and even though I never did it again sometimes all the fear comes back to me. You can connect with others by describing your past in a way your questioner may relate to. When I was on the football team, you remember football, the beer, the girls, right? There are plenty of other options. In fact, the storyline behind almost any heartwarming movie plot should do the trick. Presenting a vulnerability will likely result in a lighter punishment than you deserve, If these tactics don't work, you can always resort to stonewalling. Just keep quiet and don't give them anything they can use against you. When in doubt, don't tell people anything.
Bullshit. Bullshit is a statement, unconstrained by a concern for the truth, says philosopher Harry G. Frankfurt. And he is right. Not quite the same as lying, bullshit is a way to get out of something without needing to either deceive, win, or prove anything. The goal is to simply get past something as quickly as possible with a minimal amount of damage, and no quotable assertions. Bullshit is unavoidable whenever circumstances require someone to talk without knowing what he is talking about. Partly for this reason, Frankfurt believes people tend to be more tolerant of bullshit than of lies, perhaps because we are less inclined to take the former as a personal affront. He insightfully quotes Eric Ambler's dirty story. Never tell a lie when you can bullshit your way through. This is good advice under pressure. If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. W. C. Field's empty speak is a simple form of bullshit, saying something without really meaning anything. For example, the popular response, "It is what it is." Use overbroad terms that can apply to just about any situation, and which are in line with what people are already inclined to believe. This is a great time to exploit bias. When Henry comes in with some mixed sales reviews and asks, "Are we going to need to cut the Jenks model from our productions line?" You say, "It's going to be a great year for you, Henry." Optimism bias at work. Then pat him on the shoulder, check your phone, and hurry off. Astrology is a good example of soothing empty verbiage that encourages belief. Practice speaking the way people write astrology, and your bullshitting ability will improve. Astrological forecasts are skillfully written to support bias without clouding the picture with concrete details. They are wonderful primers on how to write in an appealing, nearly content-free manner. Everybody half believes them, because they always contain a kernel of something everybody wants to believe about themselves. Empty speak is one way to breeze past an answer you don't know. Keep it positive. The Magic 8 Ball has been a beloved toy for the past 70 years. The answers are vague, yet appealing. This long-term popularity may be due to the fact that the 8 Ball contains 10 positive answers, while only 5 non-committal and 5 negative ones. Nonsense is another way. All you have to do is say something nobody understands and they'll do practically anything you want them to. J. D. Salinger, The Catcher in the Rye. There's all sorts of nonsense out there in the world. If you're an expert with a handle on big words, you can spout off an impossible yet complex-sounding procedure required before you can finish the task at hand. We might call this shop talk nonsense. It's very effective, especially if you can make it seem ever so subtly off-putting as well. If you're getting pressure because a job's not finished, offer to show your manager why. The current oscillator is askew, so each individual induction wire will need to be recalibrated before I can continue. Why don't you come down to the basement, and I can show you? I think we got the last of the rats down there yesterday. It's a lot like empty speak, but is full of sham specifics. Word salad is another popular form of nonsense. Originally coined to describe the garbled, nonsensical way schizophrenics sometimes talk, it's now used to describe a popular form of bullshit. Word salad can be used tactically to derail someone asking difficult questions without your painting yourself into a truth corner. Choose a few descriptive and colorful words from the question posed and add some power words like because, therefore, or in response. The result will likely qualify as an answer, if confusing, and you will not be held accountable to the facts of an outright lie. Here's an example by Donald Trump during one of his campaign stops. It's a little long, but amazing. Look, having nuclear. My uncle was a great professor and scientist and engineer, Dr. John Trump at MIT. Good genes. Very good genes. Okay, very smart. The Wharton School of Finance. Very good, very smart. You know, if you're a conservative Republican, if I were a liberal, if I ran as a liberal Democrat, they would say I'm one of the smartest people anywhere in the world. It's true. But when you're a conservative Republican, they try. Oh, do they do a number? That's why I always start off. Went to Wharton, was a good student, went there, did this, built a fortune. You know I have to give my credentials all the time. because we're a little disadvantaged. But you look at the nuclear deal, the thing that really bothers me. It would have been so easy. And it's not as important as these lives are. Nuclear is powerful. My uncle explained that to me many, many years ago. The power, and that was 35 years ago. He would explain the power of what's going to happen, and he was right. Who would have thought? But when you look at what's going on with the 4 prisoners, now it used to be 3, now it's 4. But when it was 3 and even now, I would have said it's all in the messenger. Fellas. And it is fellas because, they haven't figured that the women are smarter right now than the men, so it's gonna take them about another 150 years. But the Persians are great negotiators. The Iranians are great negotiators, so. And they just killed us. The questioner will be flummoxed, if not convinced. While not exactly a win, it will buy you some time. A more powerful use of word salad-ism is to invert the meaning of a statement or question by simply transposing the words offered. For example, because it's better to die on one's feet than live on one's knees. I'm afraid you have it backward. It is better to live on one's feet than die on one's knees. That is the way the saying goes. Joseph Heller, Catch-22. This is more like a meaning salad with meat. If you can come up with one, your interlocutor will be surprised, confused, and maybe even driven to deep thought. Advantage, sociopath.
The artful dodger. Unpredictable patterns and a lack of feedback are great ways to undermine a person's sense of control, which is why you should never tell anyone the real reason you did something, unless it's useful to do so. Use wicked turns of phrase to deflect even the most pointed questions. Bluff. Answer a question with a question. Try broad, black hole questions like, what's the downside of doing nothing, or can you explain that again? Learn the power of throwing the old what Jack says about Jill says more about Jack than about Jill in your interlocutor's face. Always remember to disguise your motives and your feelings. Tip, as shown with cognitive dissonance, people are thrown off balance when things don't make sense. Use this to your advantage by throwing verbal dissonance back at a questioning attacker. When someone is peeling back your mask, throw mixed metaphors at them. The time required to figure out what you actually mean and the ensuing confusion, because it sounds so familiar yet makes no sense, will make them stumble. With an affable smile, try saying something like, "Don't cry wolf over spilled milk," or "Why kick a gift horse in the teeth?" Hedge, invent words, make contradictory assertions. Leave the impression of having had a good talk, while keeping it content-free. Modern Drunkard offers good advice on acing an intervention that can be effective in dodging just about every difficult situation. They suggest you muster all your inner strength and screw an indulgent and reasonable smile onto your face and shine a favorable light on your questionable behavior. Frank, I watched you drink a whole bottle of cheap vodka. It was all I could afford. Surely you don't want me blowing my paycheck on some imported brand. Equivocating. This form of stalling is useful when you need to reply, but all definite answers open to you seem like bad ones. Respond in a vague, non-committal way while trying to alter the line of questioning. Some call it tap dancing. President Clinton presented one of the most famous equivocal answers during his grand jury testimony. It depends on what the meaning of the word is. A sophisticated form of bullshit.
Lying. Never rise beyond the level of misrepresentation and actually condescend to prove, to discuss, to argue. How different from the temper of the true liar, with his frank, fearless statements, his superb irresponsibility, his healthy, natural disdain of proof of any kind. Oscar Wilde, The Decay of Lying. Lying is something broadly practiced. Oliver James asserts that 1 in 5 communications contains a white lie. Many lies are said to protect others' feelings, but some are necessary and healthy deceptions that advance our interests. You should feel free to use white lies, but they're not what we're talking about here. Instead, let's discuss 3 other kinds of lying which, according to the former CIA interrogation officers behind the book Spy the Lie, are covered by the oath: the truth, explicit lies, the whole truth, implicit lies, and nothing but the truth, lies of influence. Implicit lies use omission and distraction to create a false impression without asserting something provably untrue. Our sage Goffman advises that when challenged, appear to answer the question completely with statements that can be proved accurate, yet disclose really nothing. As with bullshit, people tend to be less offended by implicit lies than by ones which can be proven brazenly false. The point being to alter the other's perception of what's going on, while not providing false information. This is the essence of the implicit lie. But it is easier said than done, my friend. Which is why you, the sociopath, should just go for the explicit, bald-faced lie. People don't expect this kind of brazen lying because you can get caught totally red-handed, which makes most people too nervous to try it. Explicit lies are more assertive and influential, but also more dangerous. You claim something which is not true, that did not happen, you were not there. The problem with these lies is should they be exposed, you will face dire consequences. They make people very angry. But if you feel your current situation has become untenable without lying, float one up there. You may get fired for it, but at least it won't be today. It's worth noting, the more outrageous the lie, the less likely someone is going to disbelieve it, because they can't believe you would actually tell such a whopper. So if you have to lie outright, go big.
Lies of influence occur when people couch their answer in a broader positive description of themselves, as in, "How can you even ask me if I took the cookies? I'm a Girl Scout troop leader." According to the CIA experts, lies of influence are very effective. So use them. Be a little incredulous. Say, "I would never do that, it would be dishonest." Professional lie detectors will smell a rat, but most people will be swayed by the weight of your upright moral character. Whichever kind of lie, if you do find telling one to be necessary, do it well. A few ways these CIA experts detect lies can inform you how to lie better, though they would vehemently deny this. So let me both paraphrase and subvert at the same time. First, humans are disinclined to lie outright. When asked, "Did you do it?" people will try to avoid saying no directly. As a sociopath, you do not suffer this same discomfort, so use it to your advantage. Just do it. Do not hesitate. Say no. Don't try to mitigate the denial with qualifiers like, "I didn't do nothing to nobody," or, "basically," or, "to be perfectly honest." Don't offer a rambling, long-winded answer. Do not repeat the question. It will be seen as an attempt to buy time. Do not remain silent. Do not respond with a non-answer like, "Now that's an interesting question." Do not attack your accuser with something like, "Are you even a real police officer?" Do not get overly specific as in, "I was not at the 7-Eleven at 5:36 p.m. on April 14th. Don't get overly polite all of a sudden. Don't say, "No, sir," if you don't usually say, "Sir." Don't swear to Christ or other such nonsense. Don't get indignant. Do not pretend you don't understand the question. An immediate, firm, and calm "no" is your best strategy. "I don't remember" can provide a dubious stalling tactic if you're in a pinch, but you're bigger than that. Our professional CIA lie detectors say that at least 2/3 of our communication is accomplished non-verbally. So, as previously discussed, mind your body language. Don't nod your head while saying no. Don't cover your mouth or eyes when answering. Don't stutter with your body. No throat clearing, licking lips, swallowing, shifting your weight, etc. Stay cool. Also, according to pronoun expert Penny Baker, I is used at far higher rates by followers than by leaders, truth tellers than liars, so for once, use I a lot when lying. Practice makes perfect. You can become better at lying, so work on it. You never know when you will really need this skill.
As Thomas Jefferson said, "He who permits himself to tell a lie once, finds it much easier to do it a second and third time, till at length it becomes habitual." Just remember, outright lying requires focus and follow-through. It's a pain in the ass, and has to be remembered down to the last detail. At the same time, you don't want to go too big or make your lie too interesting. Know when to temper your lies. Con man Christian Gerhartsreiter was long believed to be Clark Rockefeller. and because he didn't claim he was from the Rockefellers, no one bothered to check up on him. As journalist Mark Seal noted, he intimated that he was from the Percy Rockefeller branch of the clan, not John D. Ultra/rich, but plenty rich. He had learned his lesson. Earlier in his career, as Christopher Crowe, he disastrously used serial killer David Berkowitz's, son of Sam, social security number as his own and was busted in short order. Why did he do it? No idea. Totally pointless. Not a winning sociopathic move. Don't do this kind of shit. Don't be tempted into telling lies you think are cool or clever, but that could draw scrutiny. Pick something a little less direct. Like being a Rockefeller, but not the Rockefeller. It can still be pretty obvious, just not that obvious. Clever author Dale Carnegie changed his last name from Carnegie to match the spelling of the illustrious steel magnate, but never claimed to be directly related. He let people assume. Applying pressure in addition to deflecting pressure. If you want to get anywhere in life, it's essential to know how to apply pressure effectively. Deadlines. Time pressure has long been seen as an effective management tool to encourage task completion. Not surprisingly, deadlines are widely employed to get done. But what you should focus on is the fact that unrealistic deadlines can be used to make things fall apart. If you want to force a fail, set an impossible deadline. This will put people into panic mode and let you go about your business without scrutiny. Standing over someone and sweating them is also an effective means of forcing mistakes. Always remember what security company President Gavin de Becker said, when you remove time, you are subject to the lowest quality intuitive reaction. I think that we become temporarily autistic also in situations when we run out of time.
Move the goalpost. Even when someone meets your expectation, have another demand ready. Never let anything be considered complete. Leave loose ends and unfinished business. Most people yearn for closure, but you don't care. Leave it open. It's no bother to you and will drive others crazy. Constant rumination and permanent provocations make people edgy. Arguments. Water runs uphill, toward money. Water, Law of Los Angeles, California, 1900. At some point, arguments are about winning. Sure, there are those which endeavor to get at the truth, but usually arguments are either about getting your way or convincing an undecided party that you are right. Once you get to the argument phase, both sides are probably pretty entrenched with their biases operating in overdrive, so facts aren't going to work. If getting at the truth is essential to getting your way, it is best to present your facts in a non-confrontational, private setting where your opponent has the chance to calmly absorb the new information without feeling like he is losing face. If this doesn't work and the discussion escalates into a full-blown argument, fuck it. Make sure others can hear you and say anything to win. Many of these tactics are used by lawyers and politicians to great effect. Remember that winning an argument has little to do with being right. Forget facts. People think emotionally. Intuitions mostly dictate what is right or wrong. People usually conclude first, then pull out resources to support their beliefs. This is why using narratives and analogies, etc., is much more effective than actual facts when giving a speech or making an argument. People are also more likely to remember stories over numbers, statistics, etc. So, don't get hung up on factual accuracy. Laura Avery, lawyer, New Orleans. Here's a real example of how astonishingly ineffective it can be to deploy facts, even a basic proven empirical fact, against someone hellbent on a particular argument. Gee, won't it be great when you get back? It'll be daylight savings time and we'll have an extra hour of daylight. It won't be an extra hour, just a different part of the day when the sun is up. Gee, no. See, when you get back, we'll have changed the clocks and we'll get an extra hour of light. During daylight savings we get more sunlight. Changing the clocks doesn't change how the Earth orbits the sun, it just changes what time we say it is. Gee, no. It gives us an extra hour of daylight. As with everything else, confidence is essential to winning arguments. A baseless contradiction asserted with confidence can be quite effective. Here are some other ways to get the win during an argument. We'll start nice and go to nasty. Advice for you: when in doubt, Escalate. Once you are at the heated argument phase, winning is the only way to go. The first line of attack is to deflect, confuse, frustrate, or derail the other person's argument.
Level 1, ask questions and instill doubt. When you find yourself mired and on the defensive during a complex argument, one solid course of action is to undermine the other's sense of being armed with the facts. Initiate doubt, change the subject, tap dance, and answer a question with a question. Ask for an explanation. Ask why someone holds a certain opinion or belief. Stay quiet and let them try to explain. They may well find they have no idea, and are simply parroting what the morning paper or their cronies in legal said last week. In extreme cases, they may even shake their own belief for themselves. More likely, they will play back with you and send up a diversionary flare, hoping you will take the bait. Pay no attention. A more aggressive form of this, make a claim, true, false, whatever, then challenge your opponent to disprove it. Another effective tactic to minimize the brunt of the argument and defend against prying questions is to introduce general expansive questions like, that may be true but isn't it also true that? Use what-ifs to open the line of questioning and create an environment of curiosity, rather than direct attack. Similarly, would it be helpful if can be an effective way to shift focus from problems to solutions, which should be your solutions. Introduce doubt. Ask, are you certain? Are you positive? Are you sure? Most people are hesitant to answer a definitive question because at root, no, we aren't sure of anything. For hundreds of years philosophers have been trying, and failing, to disprove the idea that we can't even prove we exist. We can't even prove that we're not just brains in vats being manipulated by scientist aliens to believe we are experiencing so-called reality. But enough about that. Once a person hesitates, doubt is introduced. Doubt is the antidote to confidence and it erodes an opinion, as effectively as confidence bolsters one. Doubt is not contradictory information but rather pure, fact-free uncertainty. If you can get someone to doubt their own assertion, the argument is nearly won.
Level 2, distract and confuse. You can win by diverting the discussion away from the main point of your argument toward matters that will be more readily accepted, even, or especially, if they have nothing to do with the matter at hand. Distraction is your biggest ally in arguments you are not winning. If you can exasperate the other into sputtering silence or incoherent rage, even better. You win. Even though your original point has never been accepted or agreed to, it will live to face another day. Example: if you find yourself in a rancorous argument over a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine, lead the conversation toward water rights and pretty soon, if you are skilled enough, you can get the other guy to spout off about how broccoli is better than cauliflower. This is one way of winning an argument. It's called changing the subject. Use rhetorical tricks to lead the argument away from the core topic, so it becomes irrelevant and there is no way for you to lose. Change the subject often. Turn the argument into a farce. If someone cites an example that took place in Ohio, start talking about Ohio. Even something as obvious as, "Oh, my stepaunt was from Ohio," can effectively divert an argument. In his skits, comedian Chevy Chase used to create escapes from awkward situations by doing things like intentionally spilling red wine all over himself, falling down the stairs, or knocking over a Christmas tree. Especially when on defense, distraction is everything. Shift ground. Ignore the point.
Level 3, wear down, repeat yourself sick. As we've seen, measured repetition can promote belief. But by this stage in an argument there's no time left for changing belief. Even so, repetition can be used in a different way, as a bludgeon. If your opponent refutes an assertion, repeat it. Increase the frequency of your repetition. Repeat it into the ground. Exasperate them. Make them sick to death of fucking hearing it over and over and over and over. First, they'll sigh. Then, they'll puke. Then, they'll give up. This will take stamina and willpower on your part because you also will want to kill yourself if you have to hear it one more time. But stick with it and you'll get your way. Even if they still won't believe you, they'll agree just to get you to shut up. A good indicator of when you've won in this manner is when someone says, okay, Jesus. Okay. Double negatives. These are inherently confusing and can be used to exhaust and irritate your opponent. Simply phrasing something with a double negative can make it seem more convoluted than it actually is. Ask things like, is it not true that anyone ate none of the donuts I bought you guys?
Level 4, dig and prod, generalize through storytelling. A memorable anecdote can effectively bolster a wider claim. Start with a powerful single instance and generalize from there. The force and specificity of the telling will resonate with the listener and make it seem like if it could happen once, it could happen 1,000 times. Well, look at Jordan Bills. He was shot dead in the street last year for nothing more than jaywalking. How can you say jaywalking isn't dangerous? Poke holes. Find fault in your opponent's reasoning, then claim his mistake proves his conclusion is wrong, even if the error has nothing to do with the conclusion's validity. Put a hyper-focus on this one irrelevant fact or wrong assertion and ignore everything else. In this way, you can amplify mistakes to gain leverage. Probably true is true. If something may possibly be the case and it's to your advantage, assume it is true. Proceed from there and make your opponent waste his energy on attempting to prove that it is false. Misquote. Take a snippet of your opponent's speech out of context and intentionally misunderstand it. Put words in their mouth. Depict them as having an outlandish viewpoint they don't possess. This will also make them angry, which leads us to
Level 5, infuriate. A more strident line of attack is to focus solely on making your opponent lose their cool. This argument style will drive your opponent crazy, and you don't need to rely on facts. Use fun, creative zingers to irritate your opponent. They are irrefutable because they make no sense. Remember, whoever loses their temper loses the argument. Your goal here is to be confusing and frustrating. If someone gasps, "You're impossible," or pretends to choke themselves, you've won. Circular arguments. Arguments where the premise and conclusion are the same assertion are guaranteed to exasperate your opponent. We're all mad here. I'm mad. You're mad. How do you know I'm mad? Said Alice. You must be, said the cat, or you wouldn't have come here. Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. Loaded questions. Ask a question that contains a nasty presumption. The most famous example comes from Clear Thinking by R. W. Jepson. Have you ceased beating your wife? How do you even begin to answer that? Catch 22. A paradoxical logical trap where the rules contradict themselves and there is no way to escape. People find these infuriating and associate them with Kafka, bureaucracies, and, of course, the book that made them famous, Catch 22. One common example deals with unions. You can't join the union unless you've worked a union job, and you can't work a union job unless you are already in the union. Here's the core example from Catch 22, or was crazy and could be grounded. All he had to do was ask, and as soon as he did, he would no longer be crazy and would have to fly more missions. Anyone who wants to get out of combat duty isn't really crazy.
Level 6, attack. Once you are slinging vitriol, this is no longer an argument, this is a fight. The more out there the attack, the more uproarious the result. Some call these tactics below the belt, but in a street fight, kicking someone in the balls can keep you from getting stabbed in the belly, and you are here to establish dominance and to win no matter what. Be dismissive. Call someone's argument absurd or stone-cold crazy. Be incredulous, as in, how could you possibly believe the earth is round? That's patently absurd. This style is sometimes known as argumentum ad lapidem or appeal to the stone. Disparage. There's a difference between skepticism and disparagement, said James Clapper, former director of national intelligence. And indeed there is. Skepticism only calls into question the veracity of a claim. Disparagement does two things at once. It calls the claim's veracity into question and questions the honesty of the person making the claim. It's sort of like throwing a skunk at an attacking dog. It's economical. a heavy lifter which can be used to violently deflect your opponent's argument. Be warned, however, it is also seen as harsh and can make people angry. Its power lies in conflating dissenting voices with dishonesty. Savage. Insult their intelligence. Call them names. Employ an ad hominem attack, which American theorist Stuart Chase characterized as one, where the issue is deserted to attack the character of the person who raises it. A famous ad hominem attack from the 2016 presidential debates was Trump calling Clinton such a nasty woman. No one remembers what they were arguing about, but everyone remembers that line. It was effective. The stronger will win and the truth will be nowhere to be seen. The problem is, once both sides are savaging each other in the gutter, where do you go from there? It's a difficult position to back away from. On that note, a wise piece of advice from Robert Greene from his book The Art of Seduction. It is particularly important to avoid insulting those in a position to injure you. Tactical threats. Studies show a cool, viable threat, such as "take the deal or I walk," is both more effective and generates less ill will than does an angry threat. This is especially true when the threat is issued fairly late in the negotiation game, when it is less likely to be seen as empty. So hold off. Wait to deliver your threat until your opponent is deeply engaged. At that time, a quiet threat can effectively break a heated exchange while making you look calm and in control. Threats of injury. Scare tactics are more complicated. They definitely attract attention, but also foster resistance and anger. Consider threats of violence, firings, etc. as a mixed bag similar to bullying. They can be effective in certain situations, but expect the blowback to be fierce. If you must use it, remember that fear generally works better to stop people doing things than to make them do something. You have far better tricks. Besides, once a person fears you, they are more likely to pay closer attention to your every move.
The sell. Salesmen excel at applying pressure. They make you want what they are selling, and make you believe it's worth the price they are asking. They do this by telling an appealing fairy tale about 1. Who you will be when you own this product, think luxury goods. 2. How sad you will be if you miss the opportunity to have this amazing product, for a limited time only. 3. How valuable the product is and why you are getting a great deal, a special price for loyal customers. There are so many inventors, copywriters, and art directors who have expended their brilliance creating these wants, as well as writers exposing their methods. I cannot compete. All salesmen know these things and more, so I will be brief. If you can make someone want something you have leverage and can apply pressure. These are assets which will help you get what you want. Below are a few useful ways to create this fairy tale which are especially suited to your sociopathic strengths. Feed the whole. Advertising genius makes you desperately want something you don't need, that you didn't even know existed. Roger, it's a substitution game. You have to remind them that they're missing something from their lives. Everyone's missing something, right? Nick, I guess. Roger, trust me. And when they're feeling sufficiently incomplete, you convince them your product is the only thing that can fill the void. So instead of taking steps to deal with their lives, instead of working to root out the real reason for their misery, they go out and buy a stupid-looking pair of cargo pants. Dylan Kidd, Roger Dodger anchoring. Be bold. Make the first offer and make it extremely high, if you are selling, or low, if you are buying. No matter how ridiculous this initial offer may seem, it will establish one value for the exchange that all other values will revolve around. Act like your offer is totally reasonable and supported by previous deals, but base it on how desperate the other person seems to make the exchange. Always be prepared to coolly walk away. Emphasize what they are getting instead of what they are giving up, and remember, nothing is really worth anything. It's only worth how much someone else is willing to give away to get it. FUD. Short for fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or disinformation. FUD is a fun and hoary negative sales technique perfect for your personality. If you can't sell something based on its merits, you can always cast doubt on your competitors by slinging shit on their products. A tactic used by industry giants such as IBM, Microsoft, and Clorox. The core idea is that if you can make someone suspicious of other products, they will be more likely to buy yours. It totally works. Try something like, Finally, an LED light bulb that doesn't make everything look terrible. The FUD motto: if you can't make yourself look good, make other people look bad.
Feel, felt, found. This is a far more saccharine method. You are bound to rail against at first because of its inherent cheesiness. But contain yourself and listen up. It comes to the rescue when a hard take it or leave it negotiation is off the table, when the other person isn't madly in love with your widget and is ready to walk away, and you know it. It's an empathy trap. You empathize with your customer and soften him up. And it works. Known in the sales universe as an objection handling technique, it's taught to all Apple Genius Bar employees. Often confronted by frustrated, confused, tech loser customers, part of their genius lies in helping solve the customer's problem by convincing them to buy another, newer, shinier version of same-ish said frustrating yet amazing object. Feel sets the trap. As in, I understand it seems expensive and frustrating. Felt is the bait. I felt the same way myself when I first started using the new amazing product. Found is the sound of the trap snapping shut, but I found I saved a lot of time and money with the new problem-solving features of this newer, more amazing version of the product, and it's totally worth the additional cost in the long run. There are countless other sales techniques you can easily find in books and blogs and classes everywhere. But there's only one you will ever really need, taught to organization man author William White during his early sales training in the rugged countryside of rural Depression-era America. His memory of his mentor, fella, he told me, you will never sell anybody anything until you learn one simple thing. The man on the other side of the counter is the enemy.